Over the last 2 years, the 147th General Assembly has had a very ambitious agenda, and I'm very proud of the House of Representatives and the bills that they have accomplished for the state of Delaware and for our constituency. Going back to last year, of course we became the 11th state to legalize same-sex marriage. That was a House bill sponsored by Representative Melanie George Smith, and it was really a piece of history for our state and for same-sex families we share it with. Last year, we also passed legislation that protects transgender people from discrimination in Delaware, which was another victory for equality and for civil rights.
Well, we can't forget the hard battle that we had fighting for some common sense gun control legislation. We closed the background loophole that was out there, which allowed people to purchase weapons secondhand without having any kind of criminal history check done. I know it sounds a little bit silly to some people, but it's a very, very big deal. I mean, we have it set up so that if you purchase a new gun, you go for a criminal history background check, and there were literally thousands of people over the course of a couple of years that had, knowing full well they weren't allowed to possess guns, that actually went and tried to buy guns.
We had a lot of really good bills come from the individual members of our caucus. Representative Deb Heffernan brought us bills banning the sale of e-cigarettes to minors and adding those devices to the state's Clean Indoor Air Act. Representative John Viola pushed a legislation allowing the same-day registration for elections, increasing access to voting at a time when many states are decreasing access. We passed a Ban the Box bill from Representative J.J. Johnson to give people with a criminal conviction in their past a foot in the door. And we passed workers' compensation reform to stop the large workers' compensation rates that are burdening Delaware businesses. We also introduced several packages of bills this year to promote responsible business practices among contractors, increase government transparency, and address some of the campaign finance and lobbying issues identified in the Visa report.
You know, and we didn't forget about small businesses. We passed several pieces of legislation. We passed legislation to help expand craft breweries. We passed legislation for farm wineries. And we also, a bill that I sponsored, we established aquaculture back in our state again. We had it back in a way long time ago, 50s, 60s, and it kind of disappeared. We're the only state on the eastern seaboard that didn't have aquaculture. You know, whenever you reach the end of the two-year session, you try to look back and think of certain things that you could have done, things that you may have done differently. But when you look back at some of the landmark bills that we did, especially in the first year, we tackled a lot of the big issues that have been hanging around for years and years. I mean, we hit marriage equality, we did workers' comp reform, gun control, minimum wage, ban the box. You realize that we've done an awful lot.